We got the news recently that the Powerpuff Girls are going to get a live-action adaptation, which is weird, but whatever. We don't have much info, but we're going to break down what we do know, what is safe to assume, and then throw in a whole lot of speculation on my part on where the show could go, and how the elements could translate into a more serious story. Now, the Powerpuff Girls is one of the most heavily adapted modern cartoons to come out of America, but that isn't really saying much. It's nowhere near as widespread as Scooby-Doo, for instance. Everyone should of course be familiar with the original show that aired on Cartoon Network, which was later given a feature-length film that serves as an expanded origin story for the girls with more dramatic elements and serious character development. After that, the Powerpuff Girls eventually went off the air, but was given a very strange Japanese anime adaptation that was a bit more serious than the original show in some ways, but just as funky in others. And then of course we have the recent reboot, which has mostly appealed to a new, younger audience and pissed off the older one. Now, we have these girls being aged up to 20-year-old women who have become disillusioned and resent having spent their childhoods fighting crime for this CW drama. But the question a lot of people are probably asking is, why? Why are we doing this? Well, this new adaptation is likely coming out due to the success of the live-action Teen Titans series. While the Teen Titans have roots that supersede the Cartoon Network series, it was clearly heavily influenced by that particular version of the heroes, and then had its grit factor cranked up to 11. DC is owned by Warner Bros., which owned the WB, which became one half of the CW, along with the UPN, and Warner Bros. Has always had close ties to Cartoon Network, or its parent company, Turner Broadcasting. There is a lot of rumors flying around that this will be a very dark and gritty adaptation, similar to Riverdale. However, the project is being headed by Greg Berlanti, who is best known for creating the various superhero shows that you see on the CW. While the tone jumps around quite a bit in those shows, they are known for being considerably more lighthearted than the ultra-gritty DC movies. Riverdale's success seems to be prompting the network to move in a more gritty direction, however, but it remains to be seen if the Powerpuff Girls will actually be on that same level in terms of their grit. Now, we don't have much information beyond that, but it is safe to assume that the original TV series itself is not going to be canon to the show. While a lot of moments from the cartoons will likely be referenced, I imagine that the girls' childhoods will mostly be vague flashbacks that indicate that the premise of the original show and its characters are relevant to the reboot, but a lot of the more outrageous, hilarious, and nonsensical elements will be ignored entirely. Instead, I think that the show will fill us in on what their childhoods were like as the series progresses, with the origin stories of the girls and villains slowly being revealed over time, often with the more kid-friendly version being the accepted truth, and the girls uncovering something more sinister below the surface. I doubt that the girls will just be made from sugar, spice, and everything nice, though that would likely have been a fun marketing campaign that was thrown around when they were in kindergarten. But the truth of how they were created is probably going to be a lot more dark and serious. Mojo Jojo could still be one of Professor Utonium's lab experiments that went wrong, like in the movie, and he will likely be one of the more important villains from an emotional standpoint, with the girls realizing that they were all just his messed up experiments, that they could have been just like Mojo Jojo. Mojo Jojo may even seemingly become an ally to one or more of the girls, as he gains their trust in exploring their past and try to fill in the blanks, though I imagine he would ultimately betray them. The central conflict of the new show seems to be whether or not the girls will reunite to stop a great threat to the Earth, so it sounds like they have not only given up on being heroes, but have separated from each other as well, and we will see their personal lives expanded upon individually. Blossom was always the book-smart one, and I imagine her central focus will be on her career in this reboot, the struggle she's facing, and how she is always at risk of exposing her identity if she goes out of the way to help someone using her powers, similar to the dynamic we see in Supergirl. Bubbles was always the childish one, and as an adult, I think we may see her dealing with her issues by trying to be that fun 20-something girl who is always out partying. Her plots would likely involve dating and romance more than anything, as well as how this lifestyle isn't fulfilling or meaningful, but how she isn't sure where else to go after being a hero for so many years. Buttercup always had something of a dark streak in her, and I wouldn't be surprised to find out that she's something of a criminal now. I don't think she'd be some murderous serial killer or anything like that, but it would be interesting to see her using her powers to benefit herself, and perhaps a gang that she is in. And when the girls reunite, they would need an in into this criminal underground that she would be able to provide for them. But it could also give her character some good depth, as she struggles to reconcile the fact that she's now a criminal with her once being a hero. As for the villains, it's a little harder to say how they will fit in. As I mentioned earlier, Mojo Jojo is too prominent a character to be disregarded entirely, but like with Powerpuff Girls Z, the anime adaptation, the writers will likely see that there is more fun to be had with other villains, such as him. Him is presented as a vaguely defined mischief maker who plays things sweet, but then has an intense anger for the Powerpuff Girls, with lots of references indicating that he is Satan himself, and that the girls are unknowingly preventing all sorts of biblical-scale apocalyptic scenarios. In Powerpuff Girls Z, it is acknowledged that him is the literal devil, and is working to create a lava-based hexscape and destroy the world, with a previous iteration of the Powerpuff Girls sealing him away in feudal Japan. I would not be surprised if the show played with a similar idea. Chemical X in the original show is just a random plot device to explain how the girls got their powers, and to occasionally power up other villains as well. But in a more serious adaptation, the root of the girls' power will likely need to be explored, and having Chemical X be something that Professor Utonium made a deal with the devil for would be a really cool route to explore all these characters in a dark way. The girls would have unexpectedly been used against him when they were young, but they could pull back to reveal that this was all part of some bigger plan that him has for world domination that requires the Powerpuff Girls to exist, perhaps to serve him in some way in the end. Then, of course, there is the professor himself, who I like to think will be a decrepit old man in a nursing home at this point who the girls never visit. Their relationship with him will likely be strained as they grew up and became aware of who they are and their place in the universe and what the professor had to do to create them. I think only one of the girls, probably Blossom, will be visiting him at this point, and it will be a very strained relationship. But that they will reconnect as the series goes on and the characters realize what they really mean to each other as the truth is unraveled. Other villains are likely going to be brought in, of course. I would love to see the Rowdy Rough Boys, and there's a lot of different directions they could go with that, as well as the Gangrene Gang and Fuzzy Lumpkins and Princess, but this is all speculation for now, and who's to say where this show will go, or if it will even be as gritty as I'm describing here. Hopefully we won't have to wait too long to find out. I'm a little bit tired of reboots, but this one does seem more interesting just because of how innocent and sweet the original Powerpuff Girls were, even if it could get a little dark in some episodes. I have no idea if we'll be covering the show here, as this is a cartoon-based channel, but subscribe anyways, and we'll find out. See you next time.